only 3 Jaguars you should buy in 2026 are fun to drive and likely won't cost you a ton of money at the service shop. Not all Jaguars are the same. Neglected, abused, and the wrong models can leave you in a world of financial hurt. That's why I'm going to share 3 of the only Jaguars I would recommend in 2026. Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. The first one is what many would consider actually a reasonably reliable car. Remember, you've got to make sure you're buying it from a reputable dealer or somebody that's got all the service histories, have been absolutely lovingly taking care of their car. Because a used and abused and neglected car is going to cost you some money. So you want to stay away from those. The XJ from 2014 to 2019, these are amazing cars. They feel luxurious. They feel like everything a Jaguar should be. And surprisingly, reliability scores that are on par with vehicles like Audi and Mercedes and certainly Maserati or Alfa Romeo. And they're absolutely beautiful to drive. They come with the 8-speed ZF automatic transmission and truly one of the best transmissions in the industry. Everybody from BMW, even Ram is using them. On top of it, just about every other Euro brand is starting to fit the ZF 8-speed automatic transmission to their cars. They predict the driver's intentions and they're reliable. They can take on a ton of torque. But the XJ has a couple of engines that are recommended. The 3-liter supercharged V6. Remember, you won't get this anywhere. Modern day cars with 2-liter turbos and all these little 4-cylinder hybrids, who wants that junk? People that are buying Jaguars appreciate the old yesteryear, loud, aggressive, snarly engines that actually have a little bit of character. And the 3-liter supercharged V6 is just that engine. But I personally recommend going straight up to the 5-liter supercharged V8, as the V6 is literally 2 cylinders lopped right off. It's essentially the same case, but 2 less cylinders. It's an odd, obscure engine. Either way, they're both relatively reliable, and when made it up to the 8-speed ZF, they're durable. Just make sure you've got all the history and the maintenance records to line that would tell you that this is actually a reliable car. For the price of a modern-day Toyota Camry or even a modern-day Honda Accord, in the range of $22,000 to $45,000, you can get yourself a beautiful 2015, 16, 17 model of this beautiful XJ. Gorgeous car. It's amazing how much car you can get for the cash. Now, 3 common issues you're going to find are cooling system woes. And like a lot of these Jags, and I started to see it in the forums, even with the F-Type, they talk about this infamous Y-pipe that has seams that they can crack and split and start leaking. So cooling system woes are part of the issues to contend with. And expect to spend anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 to maybe $3,000 to rectify some of those issues. Try to get ahead of it. There are some aluminum upgrade parts for some of those areas of concern, so it's not really that big of a deal. Just make sure you address those challenges. Some of the infotainment systems seem to be a problem throughout the entire Jaguar lineup, and this one's no different. So get beyond that. Maybe buy yourself a TomTom or just use your cell phone and move on with it. It does work from time to time, but honestly, not something that I would brag about too loudly. Air suspension, another area of concern, but it does affect a lot of brands, from BMW to Jaguar to Land Rover, you name it. $1,500 to $3,500 a corner on any one of these vehicles if the air ride suspension goes. You're talking about airbags, compressors, there's level switches, and a whole lot of other technology that goes into this. Now, it gives you the beautiful ride height. It gives you the ride that you expect from a modern day Jag, but it comes at an expense. If there are a certain sag on a corner and you notice a vehicle in the morning that is sitting a little bit flat, that's an indication you might have an issue with the air ride suspension. Make sure you've got some of the service history if you're buying one of these cars used, that you understand where those issues are and what the previous owner has done for service, because those air ride systems can get costly. I know my old X5 and my 35D, we blew air ride suspension a couple of times. I bought a couple of aftermarket bags. I did the retrofit myself a couple of times, and then I just got tired of it because it happened again, buying a used set of aftermarket bags. So I just said the heck with it. I retrofitted it out to a coil suspension system. All was fixed. But the Jaguars, they will get expensive. And as long as you're aware of this and you know what you're up against, the rest of the car is actually pretty durable. And they ranked them at a 95% reliability score with only a 14% probability of serious failure. And generally, most of the issues and failures you're finding with a lot of these cars are really more electronic related, and some of those glitches with electrics and lights and some weird stop-start system gremlins and glitches, which I also had with mine. But outside of that, it's not so much mechanical. The transmissions are solid, the differentials are reliable, change your fluids reliably, and of course the engines are pretty stout. Get that Y-pipe fixed up and get some of those cooling system woes sorted out, and that car is absolutely bulletproof. And the next model is one of my favorites. favorites. It's the XF. That's right. It's the sedan. It's slightly larger. The XE I did a review on. The XF is just a little bit nicer, more luxurious. Many consider the X250 facelift or the early X260 to be some of the most reliable, robust, and best enthusiast driving sedans anywhere on the market. While it doesn't necessarily have the luster of the XJ or even the XJL, it does in fact have more of a sporty appeal and appeals to a different type of demographic, those who enjoy driving their cars rather than riding their cars. The 2009 to 2012 are considered to be a simple and a more robust machine. The 2017 to 2020, they're more refined, more updated, they feel more technologically advanced, and they feel more what you'd expect from a Jaguar. The transmissions are pretty stout. The earlier 6-speed autos, but even better, the later 8-speed ZF automatics are truly the best gems. I would personally go with the latest chassis, that way you get the better gearbox. I say no to the 2-liter Ingenium engines. Yeah, and the diesel engines have had all kinds of problems. Timing chains piling up. There was even an issue and a recall because the drive shaft bolts were too short on some of these models that utilize the same engines. Stay away from the 2-liter engines. Personally, I'd say that doesn't represent Jaguar very well. Rather, the 6-cylinder supercharged V6 as well as the 5-liter supercharged V8 are definitely the engines you want. Trust me, I know I had the 5-liter V8 and it screams and howls, makes some of the best sounds in the industry. And now that we're looking at a lot of these modern cars with these quiet, buzzy little engines, these 2-liter engines or hybrid drives, everything buzzes and whistles down the road. These engines are absolutely a gem from yesteryear, and we're going to be grossly missed. These do range anywhere from 10 grand up to about $30,000, so there's a pretty wide variance, but get the later models, you get the better gearbox, you get the more reliable drivetrains as a whole, and likely less of a sordid history, and you're probably going to get yourself a more reliable car, a car that I would personally own. If you're buying a diesel, the DPF were an expensive issue, $1,500 to $3,000, but this is not unique for Jaguar. Any kind of car, European style, that has a diesel engine is going to experience DPF, diesel particulate filter issues, and this one's certainly no different. Infotainment issues, $300 to $1,500. I experienced some of that with a SIM card. It's just an issue you're going to contend with time and time again, but it's not catastrophic, and it rarely leaves you on the side of the road. Another common issue that does get a little pricey with some of these vehicles is the superchargers. Of course, both 3-liter as well as the 5-liter superchargers do have potential issues. The snorkel, where it wides down together, there's a spring in there. They start to rattle, make a little bit of noise, and it's a bit of labor intensive to repair that. That does get potentially expensive. Anything with a supercharger or turbochargers, your blow force induction means you're going to spend a little bit more money. It does add extra heat, and of course, on top of that, you have extra Y pipes and some of the cooling system woes are all things that you're going to contend with. But supercharger repairs could range from $1,500 to $3,500 depending on the severity of the repair. So again, this is important to find yourself a car that hasn't been neglected, abused, and if it has had this issue, that at least it's been sorted out by the right repair shop. According to Car Parts, you would expect to still spend as much as $1,000 plus on average per year just for unexpected repairs. I know even when I owned my Jag F-Type, I was spending $1,000, $1,500, almost $2,000 every year just for maintenance, just to stay on top of that maintenance regime. Now that could be a little different, and certainly as they age, a lot of people like to DIY, but remember, good records are everything. So if you're going to consider selling your car down the road, the dealer service goes a long way in selling your vehicle because a lot of people put faith in the dealer's network more so than somebody just DIYing and pulling up the sleeves themselves. And make sure you take care of any unexpected breakdowns. What Car also claims that the later models has reliability up close to 94.7%, showing that these cars are as reliable as any of their peers in the industry. Now the third, you know it can't go unmentioned, is the F-Type R, or even the F-Type in general, the S or the R. Some of the S models or some of the earlier V6 models actually came with a manual gearbox. I'd personally recommend going away from that. I love rowing my own gears, but personally, it's not the most robust system. Their 8-speed ZF automatic transmission is clearly the best transmission throughout. People have also asked me, would you go with the turbocharged 4-cylinder in these cars too? No, on an F-Type, stay away from any Ingenium engines. They're not smooth, they're not refined, and they're not as reliable. Stick with the 3-liter V6 that's supercharged, and even better, go with the 5-liter supercharged V8 in both the F-Type R or even the SVR. I also had a great friend who honestly had the Project 7, which is even another level almost of collectability. So any of the supercharged V8s have a soundtrack that is absolutely devastating to your eardrums, devastating to anybody driving anything lesser, and is shockingly fast, especially when equipped with the latest F-Type Rs that had all-wheel drive accustomed to it. With 550 horsepower and all-wheel drive, absolutely brutal, devastating acceleration, and it's going to shock even the most enthusiastic driving enthusiasts. Now, in 2026, I'm starting to see these prices creep up again. They do range from $25,000 to about $70,000 to go up to about a 2019. Don't go, in my own personal opinion, later than that because they lost the burble tune. And honestly, if you bought a car like mine, a 2017, 2018, they had all-wheel drive, they had the wicked exhaust sounds, but after that, they started tuning out the exhaust sounds. All that snap, crackle, pop started going away. And the facelifted cars in, the 21, 22 model years didn't quite have the same appeal on the front end finishing. It didn't quite have the same level of aggression. It had 575 horsepower, effectively the same drivetrain, but it got quieter and a little bit more refined. That's why I suggest going with up to and including 2019. Cooling system problems, again, $1,000, $1,500 to $2,000. I already mentioned that seamed plastic fitting for that Y-pipe. Get that taken care of. Get it retrofit right away. Supercharger potential issues, already mentioned, $2,000 to $3,500. If you have that spring issue or a supercharger failure, it does need a fluid change from time to time. So make sure you follow that regime, of course, with maintenance, and you should be good to go. The active exhaust system was also another potential failure for these. $800 to $2,000. There's valves in the exhaust system that would open under certain situations when you put it to maximum attack mode. They would open the valves. It would be a louder cold start. It was absolutely amazing. But those valves do get corrosion. They get rusted up and then they seize. So those are a potential failure point. On top of it, the rear differential. Of course, it's electronic. If they're used and abused excessively, that could lead to a premature failure. $2,000 to $4,000 to retrofit some of your rear differential issues. Changing the fluid was important, but equal to that, there was a little vent on the top too that you had to make sure you clean that out, because if it plugs off, you overheat the differential and you could have a premature failure. So make sure you do your right maintenance on the rear differential and you're good to go as well. We also can't forget that they were direct injected. There isn't an uncommon phenomenon with some of the injectors. There have been issues in some cases with injectors or the fuel pumps, which do get a little bit costly. We're in the thousands of dollars repair, but that's not an uncommon failure. You're seeing in BMWs and Audis and Benzes. It's a factor of any kind of these modern engines with direct injected systems. Carbon fouling and expensive repairs are to follow. And from my own personal experience, I personally believe the F-Type R is the best sports car in its class. I like it better. It has more raw appeal than the Mercedes-Benz, the GT or GTR series cars. This actually sounds more aggressive and looks more aggressive. On top of it, beautiful cars like the Lexus LC500 are wonderful and arguably more reliable, but they lack the drama that this car has. So this car really is in its class of its own. Many people even choose these over a base 911. It's faster, more furious, more aggressive, and it certainly has more of an animalistic nature. It doesn't have turbochargers in the exhaust system because it's superchargers pushing compressed air on the intake. Rather, you don't lose any of that great exhaust sounds. It's pure exhaust note music to the car enthusiast's ears. I love my F-Type R, and the only reason I sold my F-Type was to make room in the garage for the next toy. So in general, if I can recommend, looking for a Jaguar that has good service history, less owners, bank for at least $2,000 to $3,000 per year for annual service or unexpected breakdowns, stick with something that's generally 2014 and newer, go with only the supercharged V6 or supercharged V8 engines, try to also stick with the ZF 8-speed automatic transmissions, and above all, avoid neglected, abused, and cars with sordid histories or no history at all. Those are cars you want to run away from because you're likely going to be faced with some seriously expensive maintenance costs. But get it all right and you're welcome to one of the best driving experiences, one of the most luxurious cars from an era when Jaguar actually made cool cars. Not this modern day electrified nonsense, not these modern day rebrands, but from a time and a place when folks like Ian Callum put their stamp of approval on these cars, and these cars were truly a gem and a vehicle worth owning. But if you're really curious, why are used Jaguars so cheap? I'm going to answer that question for you right there. And on top of it, if you're looking at something else, maybe a used BMW, hey, good competition right there. Never hurt, right? Hope to see each and every one of you real soon, everybody. You all have a lovely day. Talk to you then. Bye-bye.